Well, speaking of San Diego State, our first guest,
Our guest,
our
yeah.
special guest today,
The guest.
he attended San Diego State. He played in the NFL. He's got a real,
I used to watch the NFL.
yeah.
My only connection.
He's got a son that's a wildly incredible athlete named Seth Collins. His dad's here, Trent Collins. Give him
All
a hand.
right.
Trent, what's up, my brother?
Oh, man, appreciate
What's
being
going on?
here, man.
Wow,
Happy to
man.
have you.
Appreciate being here.
So, my man, Trent, you are from the Dirty,
I'm
right?
from the dirty South.
Mm.
You know how we get down, collard greens, possum pie, you know what I mean, boudin.
New Orleans, Nolens.
Nolens. Yeah, that's where we from, man.
And where did you play high school ball at?
High school ball, John Ehret High School. You guys may know a guy by the name of Reggie Wayne, and Cordell Stewart, guys like that. We went to the same high school.
Wow.
But I went to high school, West Jefferson High School, for 2 years. And John Ehret High School was an all-girls school. So I was with the first group of guys that went to.
They were happy to see you.
Oh, man, we did our thing, man. So we put them on the map. You know, everybody knew the Patriots.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So,
So you had a great career there, right?
yeah. I had a real good experience there as a player. Played safety in high school.
Okay.
And then ran a little track, went to state in the 800 meters, mind you.
Tough race.
And we went
That's
to
not
state
easy.
800 meters. Yeah. So I was so thin though, man. So I couldn't get no scholarship in football. Nobody would take me serious.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So who came and got you?
So I had a good friend of mine that was, he was on the same team, but they were recruiting him to this junior college in Visalia.
Okay.
College of Sequoias.
Okay.
And so I was being looked at by Grambling and Southern, Nichols State, but I wanted to get out of Louisiana.
Okay.
So I asked the coach, I talked to the coach, and the coach was interested in me coming out. And so, shucks, man, I filled out some Pell Grant stuff, and, jumped on the plane with $20 in my pocket.
Wow.
Went to Visalia, man.
So you went to College of the Sequoia.
College of Sequoia. And so was there for 2 years. And I was, I had a great career there, and I was all conference and stuff like that. We had some pretty decent teams, and got a scholarship off to Northwestern, which I knew nothing about.
Wow.
Minnesota Gophers.
Wow.
And then also Sac State.
Okay.
But I had a little girlfriend, and then, I figured, shucks, at the time I was looking at San Diego State. You know what I mean? I wanted to go to San Diego State. So I forego those scholarships and walked on to San Diego State.
Wow. You only had 2 years left.
Yeah. Actually, I had 3 to do 2.
Oh, 3 to do 2.
I had 3 to do 2. So I walked on at San Diego State, and then God, all glory be to God, but we were able to, I just did what I do. You know what I mean? And then I went home for Christmas, and I talked to Tulane because financially it was getting to be too much.
Right.
So Tulane said, "Hey, yeah, you can come play with us." So I went back to San Diego State. Coach Doug Scoville was the head coach.
Okay.
Said, "Coach, listen, man, I can't afford being here.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you got to give me that paper out of my body." So he says, "Hey, let's see what you do in the spring." And of course, I did my thing.
Did you think?
And Coach Scoville, they put me on full scholarship.
Oh man, there you go.
And then I played my junior year. Going into the junior year, I wanted to start a job, but I broke my ankle.
Oh, not good.
And so when we finally showed up, I played after my redshirt year the first year. Then I hurt my ankle again in practice, so I missed the first 6 games. Played the last 5 games of the year.
Okay.
And finished with 6 interceptions. And
6 picks in 5 games.
Yeah, it just went off. Went off the deep end. And at that time, of course, Oklahoma State came to town. Jimmy Johnson was there coaching my brother.
Okay, that was Thurman
Thomas. Thurman and David. Remember David Croter?
Oh, Croter. He lived across the street from you.
Yeah. David Croter. David Croter was the right cornerback, and of course Darryl Hall, Vernon Dean. Well, Vernon had left. It was David Croter, and then so we put him on. We had a great time.
That was your junior year?
That was my junior year. Then my senior year, We had the worst record in over 20 years. We beat Cal that year, though.
Oh,
Crap out of Cal. Didn't have a very good year. I didn't have a good year. I went into the year, I was ranked 10th in the country, DB composite. But just didn't have a good year.
Okay.
Didn't have a good year. So I ended up during draft day, I get a call in the 4th round from the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, nice.
So the Vikings called me up, and of course at the time Bud Grant was the general manager.
Okay.
So I was born in '61, so it was real football. You know what I mean? In the sense that there was ain't no indoor arenas, ain't no
couldn't close that dome.
Right. Ain't no 5 yards and you can't touch the receiver. Ain't no head to head and all that stuff. Man, listen, it was different, but hey, it's kind of like going to war.
Right.
You know what you're signing up for.
Right.
Okay. So in any case, so they called me in the 4th round. They said, Trent Collins? I said, yeah. And I was by myself, man, and I was just like, it's like,
Yeah, this is a dream.
Yeah, man. They called me and said, listen, we drafted you in the 4th round.
Oh, wow.
They said, we feel like you come in and help the organization. I said, here, Coach, Bud Grant. So Bud Grant come on the phone. And then Bud started talking to me. I'm going off talking about, man, Alan Page and, the purple people.
Yeah.
I'm going off, man. And out of nowhere, the phone disconnects. Nowhere. So I take off, man. I go celebrate. I tell my whole family, everybody pumped. We excited. I come back home that night about 11 o'clock. My roommate's like, hey, Trent. I said, yeah. I said, Dallas Cowboys called, said they're still interested. I said, what you talking about? I said, man, I've been drafted. So anyway, go to school the next day. Turned out they drafted a kid by the name of Dwight Collins. Wide receiver out of University of Pittsburgh. Same year Marino came out. They drafted him, man, and they didn't have the decency.
Wow.
Man, it was one of the worst experiences in my life.
Wow.
Worst. You talking about a high and a low?
Yeah.
Man. So in any case, what turned out, everybody offered. You know what I mean? So they wanted me to come, and then there was different thoughts in terms of what they did to my draft status. This and the third. So I ended up getting drafted in the United States Football League, but I could. So when I came out, I pretty much could go anywhere.
Yeah, it's probably a better situation.
Yeah. So I had my pick, and then so I ended up signing with the Broncos with the last cut there. Finally ended up in New York. After the '87 season, I was supposed to go back in '88, and I took a job in financial services. Just never looked back.
We'll hold that thought because we'll be taking a break right now on the Coach Rose Show. Got my man Iggy.
Yes, sir.
Got Mr. Trent Collins in the house. We'll be back on KBLKRadio.com in just a few minutes. Hey, we're back on the Coach Rose Show. I am Coach Rowe. Got my man Iggy.
Yes, sir.
Lewis.
Yeah. What?
Lewis?
Oh, yeah.
Is it Lewis?
I can go back. We can do that.
Okay.
We can do that.
We got Mr. Trent Collins in the house. San Diego State Aztec, former Aztec. And, well, did you play for the Jets as well?
Yeah, played for, I went to Canada in '85 and '86. And then went to Jets in '87. They cut me 3 times that year.
Wow.
I was doing strike year, too.
Oh, wow.
And then I was supposed to go back in '88, and I said, done. Took a job with Prudential, starting my financial services career in '88, and never looked back, really. Gotcha. I did look back, actually. But I had to keep it moving,
So, like, every kid's dream is to make the NFL.
Right.
But once you get there, like, what do you find, like, it's different than your dreams?
Well, when you're little, and, at least in my mind, in my thought process is the best players always make it. Like when you see those guys, they got the best players on the field. And when you see it behind the scene, you see all the politics and everything that goes along with it.
Okay.
And all too often, that's not the case.
Yeah.
There's a lot of politics that's involved, and there's just a lot of business that goes on that affects the actual product. I mean, the thing that made me just say forget it
Mhm.
was because, man, I would work my butt off, train my butt off, only to go in camp and I'll play this guy and that guy, and for them to make the team and me not make the team.
Mhm.
You know, that was a really challenging aspect of the business for me. You know, I'm sure today a lot of things has changed in terms of the way the game is played, particularly as it relates to the rules and such. But
Yeah.
from a business standpoint, business is business.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a business, and like an attorney
Uh-huh.
or CPA who is intellectually they're the CPA or the attorney. The athlete is, you know, one and the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you know, I think from a business standpoint, you know, I think the guys that's able to make that transition and understanding that this is a business that is going to end fairly soon, and you need to start planning what you're going to do when you're done. When you start,
Mm-hmm.
those are the guys who tend to fare a little bit better
Yeah.
than the majority of which, or I shouldn't say the majority of which, but let's just say a lot of guys who end up, you know, in a bad way, bankrupt, in a bad way. It's just unfortunate what we see with a lot of guys today who you know.
Yeah. So when these guys, they make these millions and millions of dollars, what is the mistakes that they make that they end up broke?
Well, you know, you could take, you know, take a guy like you know, a guy that comes from the inner city, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he comes from a single parent home.
Mm-hmm.
Most of our African American athletes coming from single parent homes.
Right.
And let's say, you know, they come from not a very, you know, well to do type family that's not had a lot of resources. They progress through the system. Now all of a sudden they have all this money,
Mm-hmm.
and they really don't know how to manage it.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't have the wherewithal. And so at the end of the day, they have to trust someone.
Mm-hmm.
They have to trust somebody. And all too often that trust is betrayed, and they become victims. And then that happens a lot. And then on the other side of the coin as well, I think lifestyle and just making decisions that's conducive to you know, just taking care of yourself, you know.
Right.
So, you know, I think the most difficult part of it for these guys, we talked briefly about it earlier, is separating the fact that you are a business.
Uh-huh.
This is a business.
Yeah.
And you're a person.
Right.
And so the person wants to go party. The person
Right.
wants to engage and get involved.
Yeah.
But it's a conflict of interest to the business.
Right.
So all too often we see the business suffer because of the decisions that the person made.
Yeah.
And the person overflows onto the field. So
Right.
that's the hard part. I mean, it's you know, it's a tough thing. And then we have, I think, a lot of I think we have a lot of macro social issues that plays out that we see on the field.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just I don't know. It's challenging. It's, you know, to say the least.
And then a lot of these athletes, they have a lot of people depending on them. You know, like their families, their uncles, or, you know, once they sign something, they're bringing a posse with them.
Yes,
You know?
yes. And so, yeah, instead of, you know, it's like teaching them how to fish, or so they can fish themselves, you know, as opposed to giving them a fish type thing. You know, it's tough. It's really tough, and you see it all too often, where you got this posse and it's parasitical in a lot of senses. And then I think part of the problem is they have this loyalty, and they don't want to be perceived as, okay, now I've made it.
Yeah.
So now you don't want to have anything to do with me.
Right.
So now, you know, you understand? So
Yeah.
I think psychologically they have to deal with that.
Right.
But I think that there's ways and there's methods to deal with the whole giving aspect. There's ways of maintaining the integrity of my relationship with you from when we were growing up, and at the same time understanding from a business standpoint, there's certain business decisions that I have to make that are not personal, and it could simply mean that from a business standpoint, I have to limit the time that I spend with certain people. It's not personal, but it's just purely business.
Right.
And it's again, you're a professional, and you're paid for your intellectual ability to physically do certain tasks, right? Speaking specifically about football, and so that's the business, and then you've got the personal stuff. So it's hard to separate the two, because everywhere the business goes, there the person is. And we only separate. There's only a real separation when we see the paperwork. The paperwork is very clear in terms of who the person is and who the business is. You know what I mean? But it's tough. It's a tough thing for these guys. That's why it's so important for them in terms of having fundamentally a good, fundamental sound upbringing, and understanding, the importance of, relationships with your parents, and particularly if it's a good, sound, functional relationship, and just kind of building from that, and I just think for me, I raised my kids as Christians. I'm a Christian, and I rely on God for everything in my life. You know what I mean? It's my relationship with Christ that keeps me, and I ask the Lord to keep me, to lead me, and to guide me. You know what I mean? And so as a result of that, I think, that's the thing that works for my family. And my girlfriend, I met her when I left Louisiana, and I think it was in 1980. And my girlfriend was a cheerleader, who is now my wife. Now we'll be married 30 years in June, and we dated 7 years. So I've been with her 37 years.
Wow. And
so we have always been in church, and that's fundamentally, how we developed our life. And Christ is our chief cornerstone. We're not perfect, and that's why we need it. You know what I mean? So, and then we raise our kids the same way. And so it sort of helps. And I think for me, like we talk about my son, the Lord bless my son, and he goes on and he does well, and he does that. He's got a heads up because his dad has been in financial services for years. Dad kind of been around. So he'll have some good guidance. He'll have a real good foundation beneath him. And so we talk about the athletes, and we talk about, how can they be successful after their careers, doing their careers. I think it has, so much of it has to do with the people that they're surrounded with. Like we talked about earlier.
So, he's one of my nominees for Father of the Year, because this guy, he's very involved. He's very knowledgeable about football, high school, NFL, college, all that. But your son Seth, great athlete. So, did you force him to play football, or did at what sign, early age, did he start? You saw that, man, this guy.
It's kind of like, I don't know if you see, bull riding. We look at that. I like to look at that. It's pretty interesting. You saw that bull is just you got to pull it back. He's trying to get out. So this dude is 6 years old. He's trying to get out. Dad, I want to, so he said it's just incredible. He's always been athletically. He just always had it. You know what I mean? And he's always been excited. I mean, people see him play. He plays with enthusiasm, but that's how he lives, and that's the kind of guy he is. So when he was little, he was just trying to get out. And so that's something that he always wanted to do. That he's always wanted to do.
Just through the bloodlines.
Because I would say that, because I had a passion. I remember I always tell people the story about my passion for football. It goes back to when I was like I think I was 10 years old, and I finally had a chance to play. I was so excited. I had my uniform on. In Louisiana, back there, it rains. We had flash floods all the time. So man, it rained the day before practice. We had like a flash flood. I didn't care, man. I put my uniform on, showed up at the field, water everywhere. I'm the only person there. And Seth is that kind of
same guy.
He's that same kind of guy.
Did he play any other sports? Or?
He played. He was a very good baseball player. He played baseball. He was a very good basketball player. And so he played a number of sports. He played basketball in high school, very good. He ran track in high school. He went 48. So he went to state his junior year in 400 meters at Brandon Hills High School. So he had a chance to do a little bit of everything.
So how did you guys come on the decision that he made a decision to be a quarterback? I mean, I know he can play receiver and DB.
He's a big kid.
Yeah, he's big. Yeah.
Well, when he was little, his sister Devin, who, by the way, is Oregon State with him, she's in track and field. But I used to take her to voice lessons. And when I took her to vocal lessons, there was a little park. And then I used to take Seth over there. And we used to talk about playing quarterback. And I used to tell him, hey, man, it wasn't like he said, Dad, I want to, he just wanted to play football. You know what I mean? My big thing with football is you have to have an identity. You got to know who you are.
Yeah.
He's got to tell me, well, we're bringing him in as an athlete. Well, shucks, so is the track coach.
Yeah.
See what I mean? So I just pretty much groomed him to be a quarterback.
Right.
He took to it. He always had a great arm. We used to work. We used to throw tirelessly, endlessly, throw the ball all the time. And when he first played, when he was 8 years old, he went on the team as a quarterback.
Okay.
And he was incredible. He could always run. And he's always played quarterback.
Wow.
Always played quarterback. But he excelled at defensive back.
Oh man.
Because he's so aggressive. And
was he able to play both at Granite Hills?
Yeah, he played a little. As he got older, I was kind of like, I would kind of, because kind of reducing. You know what I mean? Because when he was when we left youth football, I coached at Christian High School. I was a defensive back coach on the varsity end and he played for me. And he on offense he quarterbacked, and we won 10 games. And then when he came to varsity, he started for me in St.
Yeah.
And and so that year he ended up playing 22 games. Right? His freshman because he would play the JV game.
Yeah.
Then he played the varsity game. And of course we won that year. You remember Shane Dillon threw that bomb.
Oh, okay.
Seth caught the bomb with 30-some seconds left in the game.
One of the best, greatest catches ever in high school that probably not too many people saw. But man, this guy to get that to that ball, you got to be an athlete. Yeah, he went. You got to want to get to it.
Yeah. And George Whitfield was jumping up, going crazy on the side. Shane Dillon was his client. So he played, different spots and different positions, but he's always he likes being the center of attention. I mean, he's the kind of guy that he wants to, he wants to be in front.
If you're gonna play that position, you better be.
Yeah. So that's him, man. He kids will be home dancing. Devin and Chelsea and Seth. He trying to get up front and center, man.
So does he study the game? Or do you guys have those kind of sessions? Or?
Well, now, I mean, you know how the language is.
Yeah.
Language changes, but the game's pretty much the same. But the game is so much different from when I was coaching him. It was split backs, and what I mean, it's. But now it's at a point to where he's on when he got in high school, because I used to train him a lot. But when he got in high school, I started kind of backing off. And I started letting the quarterback coaches work with him. And obviously, his coaches were coaching. But, I start, just really backing off. So he has such a great handle on the game right now. It's, That's one thing. This year, this year he ran that offense when he played. There was never issues with his ability to read defenses or any of that sort. He's a very smart kid.
Mm-hmm.
So he graduated early. You sent him out there. He got the scholarship at Oregon State.
Yeah.
You sent him out there in January so he could learn the offense.
Right.
And then ends up starting as a true freshman.
As a true freshman.
And ball it out.
Yeah. He went over there 7th on the depth chart. In fact, when Gary Anderson went to Oregon State, Seth was the first guy they signed.
Okay.
That current Oregon State staff. So the first kid they signed for the 2015 season was Seth. And then, of course, I talked to him, and I think, man, we zipping that thing up real quick. Yeah. So when he was there in 5 days, man. So Granite Hills, the administration and stuff there was just incredible in terms of working with us and making sure that he would graduate early. But that process actually started in the summer.
Okay.
When he originally committed to go to San Jose State.
Gotcha.
So when San Jose State was doing their summer camp, we went to Sarah and we talked with coaches, Kerrigan and those guys, and they offered him around that time. We were talking to him about coming in early and what do we need to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So then, the counselors at Granite Hills talked with the counselors at San Jose State, and we made sure that his workload was as such to get it done. And at that time, I think that was the last year for the 12 core classes.
Oh.
So, of course, the standards changed now, 16 core classes. 16. Yeah, Seth was the last year. So we were able to pull that off at the last minute. Nowadays, you're going to see that less and less. Unless these guys start preparing, coming right out of 8th grade. When you're looking at coming out of 8th grade, you got if you're going to be an early graduate, you got to prepare a lot earlier.
You need 10 cores at your junior year. So you don't have any junior year. You can only be, a red shirt. You can get a scholarship, but you can't play the first year. Yeah, so I think they're making it really, really hard for these kids.
They're making it real hard.
It was 12, it was 14, and now it's 16, 2.0, now it's 2.3. The JC guys are up against it. They have to get 60 transferables, 75% towards their major, 2.5. And you're talking to guys who were non-qualifiers coming out of high school.
Yeah,
and they jacked that thing up. I mean,
no. Here's the oxymoron. Once they get in, they can have their first year. They can have a 1.8 GPA and be eligible the first year, and then they can be a 1.9 GPA and still be eligible to play.
Iggy, that'd be good for you, huh?
Man, I'm still working on the 1.8. I'm at 1.79 right now.
So you see the disparity.
Yeah.
You see the disparity.
Yeah.
You see you
so you can slack
off. You can see exactly what the objective is.
Right.
You see exactly, because at the end of the day, they're not guaranteeing anything.
Yeah.
They're not guaranteeing anything.
Right.
So they impose all these standards to get into schools, and then they get in, and now you can have 1.8, 1.9 GPA.
Yeah.
So, and then on top of that, you graduate. Nobody's saying to you, listen, if you come to our university and you get a degree in business, we guarantee you that you will have a job. It's just so it's for those kids who don't come from a socioeconomically sound home, studies show that if you go into school hungry, your attention span, everything is not going to be at optimal level. Your brain is not going to be at optimal level. So you're at a disadvantage.
Right.
You're truly at a disadvantage. And these programs, in my view, are purely designed to intercept the disadvantaged kids. Your inner city kids, and then you see our kids that now they do have the athleticism, they have that, and they can excel, and they can get there using that. But we're saying, hold on, no, you can't come in our school if you don't have these certain academic goals.
Right.
Well, I can appreciate that if my job entails a intellectual efficiency that requires X, Y, and Z, right? If I'm going to be a lawyer, if I'm going to be some type of position that requires information. But when we talk about sports, it's different. So and it's making it harder for our kids. And those kids that are in their city, those kids come from single family homes, broken homes. It's harder. It's making it harder for them to make it. I mean, look at baseball. You know what I mean? It's making it harder for them to make it. And so for kids like Seth, when you see these guys, that come from a two-family home. I mean, they're blessed. Just by virtue of the fact they come from a two-family home, and that's an advantage.
Yeah. And maybe Granite Hills did a good job with Seth and graduating early, but there's a lot of kids that are just misinformed, and parents. Like last night I had a kid call me from Oakland, and hey, my cousin, he's from San Diego. He told me about you. Can you help me? All right. So what's your GPA? 2.3. I said, okay, well that's what you need, 2.3, but try to get it higher the rest of the year. Right. And how about your test score? Well, I didn't take my test. Wait. You're a senior, right? Okay. Right. Why haven't you taken your test?
Nobody told him.
Well, I went to my counselor, and when I went to sign up for the test, she told me that you don't have to take it because you have a 2.3. It's not even worth it. She told him it wasn't worth it for him to take his test. Wow. I said, "You kidding me?" I said, "Liv, they should fire her right now because this is your life, man.
It is.
It's not her life. Right. She can't tell you that."
Well, and another thing too is, Ro, and you know this too. A lot of the high school coaches are not educated to talk to these kids about basic stuff. Like you have to have a clearinghouse. You got to register through the clearinghouse. Yes. That's 101. You have to.
It doesn't hurt anyone if they're not qualifiers.
Yeah,
right. At least they know what they have to do.
Yeah. They need to know what it is that they have to do there, and it's I don't know, man. It's and then all of the additional requirements that they just
clearinghouse, SAT, ACT,
all these
4 classes,
all the basic stuff that you have to have in order to go to a major Division I college. You have to know this stuff. Yeah. And if you don't, you can be the greatest athlete in the world. You can be, but if you're not meeting those standards, then you're not going to have that opportunity.
Yeah. And then you're a non-qualifier, and then you go to JC, like I said, all those qualifications, and then if you don't do that, you can go Division I. But they tell you, oh, come here.
Right.
We got guys at D1.
Right.
But now you can only go D2 and NAI. Not that there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with going D2 and NAI.
Right.
Because all these guys have a dream to go to the NFL. They'll find you down there.
Mm-hmm. They'll find you down there.
And it's not down there. Like those guys live off of D1 transfers. There's guys balling in D2.
Exactly.
So and NAI.
Right.
Those guys really want to play.
In given the new standards that the NCAA is imposing on these kids, I think that you're going to see the NFL, for example, they're going to go more. It's going to be a more common for them to draft guys on a lower level because they realize that these standards that's being imposed, a lot of these kids are not meeting those standards.
They're falling through the cracks.
And they fall into the cracks, and they follow them.
Right.
They just follow them down there. So,
Yeah, this is a travesty.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It really is.
Going back to the NFL, like what rules do they have now that really irk you? That really, I think, detriment to the game.
Well, one of the things that the concussion thing is a real thing. I think it's difficult to legislate. Mm-hmm. Because you got as a defensive guy, you got to move and target. But the thing that irritates me is that the offensive guy can drop his hat and he's not.
Yeah.
For example, if I'm a running back, I can drop my hat. It's up to the defensive guy to make sure that his helmet doesn't hit my helmet.
Yeah.
It's not my responsibility. It's a defensive guy. Well, hold up now. Are we saying the offensive guy is the victim?
Right.
Of course not. So
Good point.
when you start going into that's kind of tricky. Now Odell Beckham was the first and I think the only offensive player to ever get hit with a spearing,
Right.
actually using his helmet.
Okay.
And of course,
Yeah.
that was with him and
On the block.
him and Josh.
Yeah, they were getting into it.
Norman. With the Panthers when they were getting into it. So he's the first guy on offense to ever get that. But what about the running backs, particularly
Right.
when they're running the ball and dropping their shoulders? You know, I understand the whole concussion issues and the stuff that's related to our brains and how that impacts us. And, you know, I share in that.
Yeah.
You know, but football is one of those sports to where it's like, you know, it's what you're signing up for.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, nobody's talking about these guys that's going off the war coming home with
Right.
one leg, with
Right.
this, that, and the third, and they're not getting the adequate treatment that they deserve.
Yep.
You know, my dad was a paratrooper in the Korean War. He got shot up. Okay, and then of course, then they were using heroin and all that other stuff.
Right.
He comes back to the States. He's a heroin addict.
Right.
I mean, ruined it for us.
Right.
I mean, he was in and out of jail. You know, he's abused of my mother, and all of that.
Right.
Okay, but there's nobody. There's no signs. There's nobody sitting back saying, "Hey, listen, if you go to war, if you sign up, here's what you're in for." They don't tell you that. They tell you sign up for the military and, you know, get a great career doing this. And,
be all that you can be.
Be all that you can be. And they're selling. That's what they're selling. They're not telling them, "Hey, here's your chances of actually coming home."
Right. There you go. Exactly.
Okay, here's the chances of you getting, you know, X, Y, Z. Let's take MMA.
Yeah.
UFC.
Yeah.
You want to talk about
Brutal.
brutal.
Yeah.
You know, but these guys sign up for that.
Right.
That's what they sign up for.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you know, when it comes down to football, the game is being watered down slowly but surely. It's being watered down, watered down. We see more coaches who's never played football. It's actually coaching.
Good point, man.
You know, that's one thing that just baffles me.
Yeah.
You know, you see these running backs running to the right side of the field with the ball in his left hand. Okay, so hold on. That's 101. As a running back, one of your greatest weapons is your stiff arm.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, not only is that a weapon for you, but it's a defense mechanism because now you can shed a guy who's going straight for your knees.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's not only a defense mechanism. It's a method. It's a way for you to be more efficient, more effective. And these guys are not learning those kinds of things because they're not taught it. A lot of these coaches haven't even played. They never played the game.
Right.
And these folks thinking that you can just study the game and then teach it. No, you can't. There's a part of the experience of it that you're totally missing. And so, you know, I don't know what we see from the NFL in, I say 15, 20 years. Who knows what that's going to be.
Circus. It's made for the offense now. It's looking for an offensive show.
Right.
You know.
It's an offensive show.
Yeah. So that irks you about that, but now also the Rooney Rule, you know, you have to interview a black coach,
or minority,
a minority, and so we'll do that. They interview one, but he doesn't get the job.
He doesn't get the job.
And then,
he doesn't get the job, but we have found we found a woman that can be our special teams coach here in Buffalo. We found one that can do that. Now, listen, in the NFL. I love women.
Yes,
I love women.
Me too.
My wife is a woman.
Yeah.
Hey, and I guess in today's world,
you got to say that.
You got to say that. Okay, I love women. My wife is a woman. Okay. And so there's nothing there. There's no hate there. But here's what it is. I mean, there's no reason that we don't have more African American coaches, not only in professional, but even on the college ranks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we need, and I think that Rooney Rule came into effect for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Coach Tomlin has been one of 3 coaches in Pittsburgh. Has done a great job down there. So
Well, the interview one in a minority, and then he doesn't get the job, and then the next year he interviews for another job, and then another job. So then he gets this tag on him like, "Well, he's a terrible interview."
Yeah.
He didn't do good in the interview.
He didn't do good in the interview.
But no, you're just interviewing. He might have been the candidate, but you're just interviewing because of the rule.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he doesn't get the job, and now every year they interview the same guy. They put it out in the media, like Terrell Austin and all those guys. They get interviews, but
Lovie Smith,
10-6, and you get fired.
He get fired 10-6 because they were afraid they were going to lose the offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
so head coaching job.
That'd be a good thing.
Yeah, he's the same guy who was calling the plays.
Yeah,
right. It's there are certain things that I don't know. I don't know, man. It's just I just try to do the best that I can and be fair with everybody.
Yeah.
I teach that to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is white. I'm black. That's how I feel about humanity.
Right.
Okay, and that's the way I feel about it, and that's the way I teach my kids about it. So there's just certain things that it is what it is. You know what I mean? So all we can do is try to work hard to be the best that we can be, and try to do what we can do to change it if there's if we have an opportunity to do so.
Right. So the Rooney Rule, like you say, coaches that never played in the NFL, they may have played college and stuff, but it's like they study the game so they know X's and O's,
right?
But not the nuances like being on the field,
right? Exactly.
How to think,
right?
In situations like this,
and you wonder why certain guys are such great coaches and why others aren't. You take Mike Leach down with Washington State.
Oh man,
Mike Leach never played football,
right?
You look at Coach, head coach over Cal. What's his name?
It's the guy from
Dykes.
Sonny Dykes. That was a baseball coach.
Mm-hmm.
They put together pretty good teams. But you look at the powerhouses. I mean, you know what I mean. You look at those guys that are really winning.
Ohio State's and
they combine experience with education,
right?
And that's why I think they tend to be more successful, even in the professional ranks.
Right. Well, man, we might have to do a part 2, huh, Iggy?
Man, I didn't think it was going that fast.
This guy is a wealth
crazy.
Of knowledge. He's very intelligent on the sport and other things. But Trey, we want to thank you for coming down,
my man. It's a pleasure, man.
And we might have to do part 2, Iggy.
Heck yeah, let's go.
What I'm saying? This has been the Coach Rowe Show. I'm Coach Rowe. My man Iggy here.
Yes, sir.
You can call him Lewis if you see him. My man Trent Collins.
Don't call me late for dinner.
Next week on the Coach Rowe Show on KBLKRadio.com.
All right.